Greetings duelists and welcome to another video. So I know this is a little bit long overdue. This already happened during the weekend, but they announced the Forbidden Limited list for the OCG, and I kind of want to cover it because this is the first list or the second list with Ryzeal and Maliss being taken over like the competitive format. So look at this list is a little bit significant because it will show what could be the future of Ryzeal and or Maliss and whether or not those decks are staying in the format. This also serves as an implication for us in the TCG because we literally just started crossover breakers format. And depending on how things go here in the TCG, we might see similar hits to those that happened in the OCG, or we could see like a little bit of stronger impact towards like the aforementioned decks in the forthcoming future. So right in Forbidden, we see Abyss Dweller. So the thing I want to talk about when it comes to Abyss Dweller is that throughout history, a lot of people have been very vocal on this card. They are not a fan of the fact that Dweller just deals with graveyard-centric strategies. I think what makes the Dweller hit like more justified now than in past formats is that we pretty much have a tier 1 deck that pretty much summons Dweller easier than any other deck that we've had in the history of like since its inception. The closest we had to a tier 1 deck that, or pretty much almost tier 0 at this point, that we had that was close to Ryzeal right now that would summon Dweller was Zodiac, back when Zodiac debuted in 2017. And even back then, Dweller was not an issue because there were not as many decks that just outright lost to Dweller. And it was not an imperative card for Zodiac to be summoning it within their strategy. Now, we're pretty much at a format where a lot more graveyard-centric decks are a little bit more popular. Like for example, if we see the last metagame report from Road of the King, we see that after Ryzeal, Maliss, and Blue Eyes, Memento is the fourth best deck, and then Gem Knight being a runner-up, and those two decks get severely hurt by Dweller. So just knowing that the best deck in the format is a deck that can gatekeep those graveyard-centric decks like Fire King and Memento and Gem Knight and Snake Eye and other strategies similar to those kind of warrants the ban of Dweller. And I wouldn't be surprised if a similar approach happens in the TCG. I think Dweller has been around for a long time, and outside of like just stopping those graveyard-centric decks, I think we're fine. Dweller has no real other purpose besides stopping those decks. Right now, Yubel and Fiendsmith are like the two better decks in the TCG, and as long as Dwellers are around, those decks won't be as like performing as well. So limits. We see Scythe, X Ryzeal, Sarcophagus, Allure of Darkness, Golden Mash, Cyberjar. I won't talk about Cyberjar and Golden Mash. These already happened in the TCG. I won't talk about Scythe either. Scythe is something that is already forbidden in the TCG. The only one comment I'll make behind Scythe is that this card is still problematic even at 1. So I think this is just a warning sign of them hitting Scythe in the future. if people just keep abusing it in the OCG. Let's talk about X Ryzeal. I think this comes to no debate. X Ryzeal is the best Ryzeal monster. It is a board breaker. It is a combo starter. The summon of this card is just so free. This is essentially Sprite Blue, but 10 times better. And Sprite Blue actually got limited in the OCG at one point, and it was also limited in Master Duel. So, yeah, I think this card is just very, very strong in that deck. After Alliance Insight, this card was just going to be even more problematic, just because of heraldic beast support. So, seeing this card hit at this point and venture, I think is more than justified. Gold Sarcophagus and the Lure of Darkness. So, this is bad news for Maliss. Maliss in the TCG is already suffering from consistency issues. The OCG having 2 copies of Gold Sark made the deck a lot more consistent than here in the TCG. And now that consistency is gone. Now they're pretty much on par with us when it comes to the consistency of this strategy. Allure of Darkness is something we have at 3. So at least that's something that we're going to take advantage of for the time being. I don't see Allure of Darkness getting hit in the TCG, at least not as of yet. The only real thing I can think about when it comes to like these 2 limits is the only way they're really justified in my eyes is if Alliance Insight is going to give stronger support for Maliss to the point where they actually become a way stronger deck. If that ends up being correct, then I can see these 2 hits actually being very relevant. If that's not the case, then Maliss is going to be in trouble because, again, that deck is just less consistent than Ryzeal. And yes, Ryzeal does have Bonfire and X Ryzeal now, both limited. But Ryzeal still has easier ways to get to their engine than Maliss does. So, yeah, I'd say for now, they actually did not do a bad job when hitting these 2 decks. If they really want to bully those decks out of the format, they need to do stronger hits, probably hits to the main deck, because outside of slight hits to consistency, these 2 decks are still going to be as powerful as the other decks in the format. Banning Abyss Dweller does help a little bit because, again, Memento and Gem Knights were like 2 other strong decks that were almost keeping up. And maybe the Band of Dweller might help them push a little bit further. But outside of that, I still think Ryzeal and Maliss have a way stronger engine than those other decks. Semi-limits. We have 7th Tachyon, we have Monkey Board, Chronograph Sorcerer, Masterpiece, Morphing Jar, Snash Steel, Zodiac Barrage. So half of these hits don't matter to us. Like, we already have 3 Chronograph Sorcerer. We only have 1 Astrograph Sorcerer. Monkey Boy 1 to 2 are on our list. They have 2 and they have Electromite. So again, that really doesn't matter to us. Morphing Jar really doesn't matter. This card could be a 3 and it probably won't be an issue. Like, the only thing we have over the OCG is Mimikghoul, and I don't see Mimikghoul abusing this card to the point where it's actually relevant. Snash Steel and Barrage, they really don't matter, and Masterpiece is already a 3 in Master Duel, and it's not even doing anything in Master Duel, so I don't see True Dracos actually taking this format anytime soon either. The one card we can talk about is 7th Tachyon. So this is another consistency nerf for Ryzeal. I don't think it's enough to bully them out of the format, but again, 2 copies of X Ryzeal plus this one actually is a hit to a degree where people might start to move away from Ryzeal as their strategy of choice. We still have to wait and see. I still think Alliance Insight might have cards for those 2 archetypes, and if it actually does, those 2 archetypes are just here to stay. But yeah, 7 Tachyon getting hit is really good because this card is pretty much like Small World. It's a card that not only does it get to your engine, but it can get you to non-engine cards that are really powerful, like for example Artifact Lancia. And for those like who are debating whether or not this card is more impactful than other consistency cards, there's one thing 7 Tachyon does that is very significant, and it's something that I often overlooked when it came to like researching Ryzeal myself, and it's that 7 Tachyon can put brick cards in your hand or like engine requirements back into your main deck. And that is a very, very big deal. Like, that fixes the issue of a lot of decks, like, for example, Rescue Ace. Just imagine just opening one of your dead spell and traps and just turn that into, like, any monster in your deck that you kind of want to do a strategy with. But yeah. Not the best hits, but again, it's fine. Yeah, Snatch Steal and Barrage, I think these cards are already at multiple copies in Master Duel, and again, they haven't done anything. I know that Master Duel is a best out of 1 format, but the fact that these cards have not done anything at all just kind of tells you that those decks are pretty much just power crept. Or, yeah. On limits, Eva, Pancratops, Malicious, Invoker, Luster Pendulum, Delicious Memory, and Branded Opening. None of these hits matter to us. All these cards have already been moved, like in our Forbidden Limited list. We already have Luster at 3, we already have Branded Opening at 3. Purely, it's almost a full power if I'm not mistaken. Maliss is already at 3. MXA Revoker, I think it's still forbidden for us. I'm not completely sure on that. I'll have to double check. But again, hasn't done anything. We just got Pancratops back to 3. I have actually been seeing this card being played in a couple people's side decks, like for regionals and like local events. So I think this is more than fine. And yeah, it's only a matter of time until we get 3 Eva. So yeah, that's it for the OCG Forbidden Limited list. Like, again, if we take away from how the format is looking right now, these hits are probably going to make Ryzeal and Maliss still like top tier contenders, but their power level is probably going to dwindle to a certain degree. We might even see Blue Eyes actually be at the same number as those 2 other decks, or even higher. And like the fact that Memento has, because Memento has actually been creeping up in the top 5 for a while now. This is not just one metagame report. Like, I can show you evidence that in past other reports we see Memento actually creep up a little bit. So with the banning of Dweller, that actually helps that strategy a lot more. And it's very soon to talk about Gem Knights. Gem Knights is a very, very, very powerful strategy. They have a lot of powerful cards that we do not have, like Block Dragon and Appaloosa and Brilliant Fusion. However, this deck is weak to Lancia, which is like collateral damage against Maliss. This card is weak to Fualos and like Nialis. which are two hand traps that do exist. And yeah, we'll just have to wait and see what happens. But yeah, that's it for me. Hope you found this informative to your liking understanding. Keep practicing and keep dueling.